I will defend myself by first and foremost shitting on myself so that when someone else shits on me, I don't feel as bad because I've already kind of like done it, I've like preheated the oven, right? And it's like sometimes we project, we expect that something terrible externally is going to happen, that we start doing the self-gaslighting thing, but the reality is sometimes that shitty thing that we're expecting, that we're projecting in the future to happen, never actually happens, and then we're just making ourselves feel shit. We're gaslighting ourselves, we're guilt tripping ourselves, we're shaming ourselves for no practical reason. Hello, fellow intergalactic beings of this galaxy. I wanted to talk to you today about, I guess, a realization I've had a few days ago that's really transformed my life. And I guess it's something I feel like I've kind of known subconsciously, and sometimes I subconsciously did it, and I feel really good through certain phases of my life. But then all of a sudden, something would happen, and it would snap me back into some traumatized state, and I feel weak and small again. And but now having this realization, I feel like, oh, I can actually lock into what made me feel confident. And, not to tease you any longer, but the realization is the fact that you've done nothing wrong. And I think this might not only apply to, maybe empaths or, like an INFJ personality type, or someone that's very attuned to other people and not so much attuned to themselves, people that are maybe more like people-pleasing types, or that often get walked over. So if you are one of those types, this advice could very much apply to you, because look, to me there's like a spectrum. There's like people that are just way too hard on themselves, and just think everything, well, you get the point. And then there's people that are just way too easy on themselves, and they might treat other people like shit, or they don't take enough responsibility, and they're very entitled and arrogant. And it's like, there's that, and then there could be you that's just very like too humble, I would say, and you just make life way harder on yourself than you need to. So the realization, this is something I would say to myself when I feel shame, unnecessary shame or guilt in certain situations. I will literally just tell myself, you haven't done anything wrong. And chances are you actually haven't. Because what ends up happening with like empathetic people is like maybe in the past they've had experiences where they really expressed their truth and they really did what they wanted to do, but because the other person was insecure or whatever, or they were projecting shit, then they made you feel like your expression of truth was not okay. So then what you ended up doing was believing them and believing that you did something wrong, and you made yourself, essentially, because no one can actually make you feel anything, but you allowed them to make you feel guilty and shameful. And shame is one of like the lowest frequency vibrations that you can feel. And it's like at the moment you start guilt tripping and shaming yourself, then the shit hits the fucking fan, man. And it's like you're not gonna have a good time, and there's no reason to ever shame yourself. It's like if you made a mistake, like, by all means take responsibility and rectify as much as you can, but there's no need to like beat yourself down so much that actually just makes it harder for you to take responsibility. There's taking responsibility, and then there's doing things while still beating yourself down. It's like you're going to be much less efficient at doing stuff if you are constantly self-shaming yourself, like self-gaslighting yourself, when you don't need to. And sometimes I think highly sensitive, empathetic, INFJ type people, they self-gaslight themselves because they're so afraid of other people making them feel bad or saying something bad about them, that it's like, I will defend myself by first and foremost shitting on myself so that when someone else shits on me, I don't feel as bad because I've already kind of like done it, I've like preheated the oven, right? And it's like sometimes we project, we expect that something terrible externally is going to happen, that we start doing the self-gaslighting thing, but the reality is sometimes that shitty thing that we're expecting, that we're projecting in the future to happen, never actually happens, and then we're just making ourselves feel shit. We're gaslighting ourselves, we're guilt tripping ourselves, we're shaming ourselves for no practical reason. And if you feel like you're a person that does things like that, because that's definitely me, then I just want to tell you, don't do that. You don't need to do that. You haven't done anything wrong. You're fine. Anything that comes your way in the future, you can deal with it. There's no need to like beat yourself up. And to go more into maybe detail, if you're into the whole Myers-Briggs cognitive functions thing, if you are an INFJ, your introverted feeling function is very low, which means you're not very good at knowing what you feel. Then oftentimes, and you know, your extroverted feeling function is very high. Therefore, you're always attuned to what other people feel, and it's like you're constantly you're doing things to please other people, and you never know what pleases yourself. And because we have our introverted feeling function so low, it ends up turning into a critic function, and we're constantly self-criticizing and you know, making ourselves feel worthless, feel shitty, and feel like we have to go out and do things to prove ourselves, to prove our worth in order for us to, you know, I guess have a an allowance to exist in this world. But you know, but you know, but by the nature of you existing watching this video, you know, you are enough. And it's as cheesy as it sounds, it's true. It's true. You are enough. You are fine. You haven't done anything catastrophically wrong. Very, very likely you haven't. If you did make a genuine mistakes, by all means, correct it, but don't beat yourself up for things that you don't need to beat yourself up for. As long as you're living your life as authentically and truthfully as you can, you're doing your genuine best, you're not having any malicious intent towards anyone, and someone gives you shit for it, that's on them. That's not on you. Don't place other people's projections of their insecurity onto you and taking it as if something is wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with you. Chances are you've had some authority figure, whether it's your teacher or your boss or, you know, your mother in your past, you know, shit on you for being yourself because you're so, you know, you're such a unique butterfly, like myself, and you've kind of, yeah, you've created this like self-gaslighting, self-judgmental machine that kind of keeps you in check so that you don't stand out, because if you do stand out, there's a chance people might lash out at you, and being lashed out at feels really shit. It's very scary, and you kind of get like this PTSD from it, right? And of course, that's understandable. But also have awareness that those fears are not valid. It's like, don't play into the fears of other people. That's only gonna be detrimental to not only you, but to the whole world. It's like you need to be the light that stands up to the fear. It's like people that put you down for being yourself, like you need to say fuck you to them back, right? You know, in a respectful way, because that's the only way you can really balance out the world. No one needs to agree. No one needs to approve of how you live your life. No one needs to, or what they think of you. And this is really hard to do, of course. It's like one of the hardest things to do. And, you know, there's the whole ego death individuation process thing that comes in. But as much as, you know, and again, don't be delusional either, but it's like, as long as you know your truth of who you are and what you want to do and everything like that, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and don't let anyone else distract you into thinking that it's not okay. You know, don't let the matrix, the Maya, you know, the illusion kind of pull you away from who you really are, because who you really are is the most important thing to do. And again, I'm going to reiterate how hard this could be, and I understand if you feel like it's hard, but I also must reiterate how necessary and how imperative it is that you do this, because if you do not, then the entire world will crumble, or it will not be as good as it can be. And, you know, the world starts with you, as above, so below. As long as you can act to your truth, and this is something, of course, that I'm also trying and getting better at, as long as you can act within your truth as much as you can, then naturally you start creating a world that is much more aligned and balanced. You don't need to put a prison upon yourself to protect yourself, as it doesn't actually help. It's a paradox. It's ironic. So, you know, I hope with this video you are able to give yourself more freedom to be you, have more confidence in yourself being you, free yourself from the prison that you put yourself in. Ever since I started doing that, as you know, as soon as a few days ago, I've just been able to live my life a lot better, a lot more like I'm not like doubting every single step that I take, and it's more flow. It's just like, yeah, fucking let's do it, instead of fucking fearing you're stepping on eggshells that aren't actually there. So I love you, and I appreciate you, and I thank you, and mwah.